Good afternoon. Welcome to the hour 5 and 6 of information architecture. Exceptionally, this week I will have a 15 to 20 minutes maximum recorded piece of our session to close on last week's topic. And then I will be available after here on Collaborate for questions that the students might have with some further instructions as well. So last week we were talking about information architecture and what triggers the need for a new information architecture and some basic principle about IAs and information architecture. And then we also talk about user and user goals. In terms of how, and this is more of a question for you, and I'd like to think about, for you to think about it as you listen to the session. When visiting a website, what is the average percentage of users who will land on the homepage when they visit your site versus landing on a specific page? This is again based on my own experience from working at multiple companies and the data that I have seen, but perhaps some people in this class have experience of or have a piece of insight or data that will tell you on average how many people actually come to the homepage when they come to your site versus coming to a specific web page. And that could very well be someone going through Google and someone typing in a specific product that you may be supporting and selling as a business. And then hopefully they will click on the link and get to a landing page, a specific landing page on your site, which is not the homepage. So if you were live in the sessions, and welcome to some of you that have joined, you could circle, and if you do want to take a guess to the answer live, for those of you that are here, circle your answer using the toolbar on Blackboard. So do you believe that 100% of all users land on the homepage when they come to your site, or do you think that it's 70%? Do you think that it's 50? Do you think it's 30 or 10% or less than 10%? So if you do want to take a guess, you can circle. Yeah, great. So we have some 70%, we have some 30%. Awesome. I love how this class is very interactive. So, and if you're at home listening, hopefully you've picked also an answer. And here's what the answer and what we're going to find. So in my experience, I should have provided the answer. In my experience, what I have seen from other businesses is 30% of the user only, and this is really not a pretty shape. Let me just use the ellipse. This is a tricky one. I'm still learning Blackboard, as I said. Let's see the ellipse. So 30%, almost on there, is what I have seen. So only 30% on average of users that come to your website, whether it's the first time or whether it's multiple visits, they actually come to the homepage. That means 70% of the time, they will be on the landing page somewhere inside a site that they may actually not even seen or even been exposed to. So this is why some of the heuristic that we know are very, very relevant. And that's part of the next slide and more of a question. What are the implications? So perhaps you do want to think about what are the implications knowing that 70% of the time when people come to your site, and that you will know from the traffic sources. So I saw that in the chat, someone has mentioned, what if they came from a specific ad? So that was from all ads, from all traffic sources confounded. So what I have seen in my experience at multiple places is the majority of our traffic will actually going to come and they will land to a specific landing pages. Of course, your ads, your Google ad, your paid Google ad will decide where you actually want to the user to be taken when they click on the ad. But there's also search engine optimization, which some of you may or may not be familiar with, that you do not control the landing pages per se, and Google will actually show those links as well on your on Google as search result if you are good with search engine optimization, and Google will also define a landing page for those specific set of keywords, and depending on where you've optimized and where those keywords are on your site. So I've been mentioning search engine optimization a few times last week, and there you have less control on the specific landing pages that Google will actually take the users. And all of this combined still gives you that only 30% of users will actually come when they first come to your site. It will be on the home page that they'll be landing. So the implications that that will put on your business is, first of all, you don't really know how much knowledge they have about your brand. This may be the first time that they come to your brand, especially if they've typed in all-inclusive vacations, right? So at that point, they're not putting even the brand. They're not putting a specific product that is the product that you're actually selling. So they're maybe going very blind or with little information only based on what they will see on the ad. So that means they may not know you. They may not know your brand. And they will come to a site and then quickly they will assess. Quickly they will make an opinion. And then it'll be on the very specific landing pages somewhere. So this is where it's very important that we follow conventions and we follow what people have seen on other sites, which are, you know, the top navigation and the homepage landmark. And sometimes you have at the top very right corner, you'll have your cart. If it's an e-commerce cart, you'll have my account, you'll have login. And then some of the site will use the breadcrumbs as well, so that the breadcrumbs will give them an indication as where am I on the site architecture. And then you'll have the header, you'll have the page title, and then maybe you'll have some subheader, and then the content. So quickly, within a matter of seconds, they will make a quick assessment to see, is this where I should be landing? And they're not going to be on the homepage. They'll be like very, very deep, or they'll be maybe on the second level page or a third level page. So the point is, never assume that or never think that user will start their journey from the homepage. In fact, most of them, 70% of the time, will come to a very specific page that either will come from your ads, from your Google ads, or from a post that you put on Facebook, or from Google search engine optimization. And I would say the ones that you need to be more concerned about are probably the search engine optimization, because the chances are they have not put anything about your brand. They have not put anything about you specifically, and they're exploring and they're discovering, and they're finding out if this is a place that they find that they may actually be able to accomplish their goal. So a few applications, very important to be aware of, and I thought that you guys would appreciate knowing that piece of data. And I do want to make sure that I cover, Jamie, will it also depend on what ad campaigns are out, for example, if they are advertising a specific product. So yes, again, it will depend on a few factors. And when you buy a Google ad, when you buy a Google ad on Google, or if you buy advertising on YouTube, or if you buy advertising on any of Google partner, which Google has about 3 million of them, sometimes it's really difficult to know exactly where the user was and how they actually clicked and how they came to your site. So point is, it needs to be very, very clear for them to understand where they are, the structure very quickly, to assess and also even learn and remember, because we've talked last week that a lot of the user will come, they may know exactly what they're looking for, but they may not buy today. They may want to come back. So how do we facilitate coming back? Or how do we give them flexibility to explore and discover further, knowing that at 70% of the time they will come and they will be at a very specific point into your information architecture. The simplest is to always give them the option to go back to the starting point, which will be the homepage, or use the breadcrumbs. We've seen that breadcrumbs are used very largely. Now, this is my experience, but it's my experience that I've seen for about 7 years at Air Canada Vacation, the same thing at Flight Centre, and the same thing at Sunwing. There are big brands in Canada, and we get 300,000-400,000 visits a day. So, and it's looking at the traffic sources and looking at how people have arrived to your site on average. And often search engine optimization, if you do a good job, is good and should be one of your primary traffic sources. And as I said, search engine optimization, the power of it is for non-brand searches, all-inclusive vacation, sweatpants, shoes, women's shoes, the most recent cars, the 2021 cars, four-wheel drive, blue, gray. They don't think of a business. So they may actually see BM, they may see Range Rover, they may see many of your competitor whatsoever, but all have expectation that your site will have certain look, certain behavior, certain structure that we're going to talk more in depth, and they probably most likely going to land to a specific, very specific page. So quickly they will make an assessment. And again, there is some data about the history of information architecture. I will not go through the details of information architecture, the history. We've talked about IA, and we talk about where does IA fit, and then we talk about UX and then user experience. So it's helping people to be able to find the content that they're looking for, or the option to maybe make a payment or place a claim or pay their bills or view their online usage or set alerts. So it's user-based, user goal, business goal. The business will be able to make decisions on what she wants to bring forward. But it's helping people to find, but it's also helping people to actually meet their goal and accomplish their goal. And it's helping businesses to actually also meet their goals. So it's either they want to bring more sales, they want to reduce costs, they want to keep customer, they want to get more leads. So knowing all of that is very important in your analysis. And that's the focus of the labs from last week as well. And that's a big part of the focus for the heuristic. So in terms of anatomy of IA, you can look on your own, but we've already talked about what is IA. My definition of IA is very broad, but it starts with the business and the user. It starts with a customer, and the customer step a stage in their journey. And we've learned that it's different if they haven't bought from you. It's different if they've bought from you, and it's different when they're about to no longer become a customer. You as a business, we want them to do many things. But when you do this, you have no choice, but you have to have an organization system. And that will be the topic for this week, which will be tomorrow. We're going to talk about structure. How do we structure? How do we organize the system and the information? It's the labeling, the navigation, and the search system. So this is for your review on slide 58 as well. I gave some example of sites, and you see patterns. You see what are expected from the users. We're going to talk more about categorization as well in our discussion of tomorrow and for this week. So if you remember, our 5 and 6, we're closing the following week. So this is time for lab. And this is why I'm closing last week's topics. But I'm slowly introducing you to what we will be discussing and start tomorrow as a new week. We're in hour 5 and 6. And the information architecture, as we've said, is in the middle. It's between user, between context, between content. But I would say it's also business. It's also technology. So it's bringing together everything that we're trying to do, but for the business and for the users. And there are certain constraints that we have. Now, information architecture can also be understood as a practice. It can also be understood as a diagram. Some of you may think of post-its. Some of you may think of the what we've seen from some of the tools that we can use to do the IA, which I use Visio. There are multiple tools that you can see, and you may think of a diagram, a specific diagram. But it's easy to do boxes. Anybody can do diagram. Anybody can put pretty names and pretty picture. But we need to understand who and why and what the purpose is. So I'm not going to go in a lot of details, but we talk about information needs as well. So there's more for you to read, more for you to explore on your own if you want. We know that there's some users that know exactly what they're looking for. We know that we have some users that don't really know what they're looking for. So, for example, I may be looking specifically for a all-inclusive vacation with Air Canada Vacations in Cancun at a hotel, at a 5-star hotel for family for January. Versus, I'm just looking to go somewhere nice and warm, all-inclusive, and I don't care who I will go. I'm actually more interested about prices. So that I will get a lot more choices, and I will have to do a lot more exploration. Now, when I get to one of the sites that I may have visited, then maybe I want to go back to that same content. Maybe I want to go back to that same hotel. Maybe I want to go back to that hotel that I've saved and see what the price and if the price has changed. So we can be very, very broad to very, very specific in our research, and we need to accommodate those users. And I would say the more they become familiar with the topic, the more they become familiar with the product, they will be adding more items into their search query, and that is what we call sometimes long tail. So you're going to have short tail search. Sometimes it's 1 or 2 words, all-inclusive vacation. But when you think of an all-inclusive vacation to Cancun for family at a 5-star hotel, that is becoming more of a long tail. Now, what you may be interested in knowing is the long tail keywords usually they don't have as many volume searches of people that are looking for that specific set of keywords every month. By the way, there are tools out there that we can use to know how many people are actually searching on those very specific keywords that they will go to Google, and then that will give you a sense of interest. How many people are interested in that all-inclusive vacation to Cancun for family versus all-inclusive vacation to Cancun? Now, the people that are typing in all-inclusive vacations to Cancun for family will convert better. They will actually end up buying more from you than the customer who actually just type in all-inclusive vacation. Why is this? It's because they want that have a long tail search. No, they're more ready. They're better informed. They've done probably more research. They're probably lower down into the funnel. So you will find that they convert better. So finding and recall. So it's in the deck. You guys can also look on your own. You have multiple examples to think about in how we organize content. Now, if you have been with Humber and you've done some other classes, depending on the program that you're in, you may have done the candy. How do we arrange a candy? And there was a candy exercise that you would have done. It may rings a bell or bring some good, hopefully good memories. This exercise, I believe, was similar to probably a cart sorting where you actually had to categorize and group candies together. So you had to make choices. But when you think of a grocery store, the grocery store actually has a structure. Grocery store has a way to group items. And often you will see that all fruits, all vegetables are together. All milk products are together. Imagine if they were not. It would be really difficult to find any items that you have. Now, teaching IA and doing IA, teaching digital optimization or teaching digital and website development, I often hear specialists or people or students say, or even people in general that are using your site, or colleagues at work, they're often going to say, oh my God, the site is way too busy. The homepage is way too busy. I would say at the end of this module, if you are saying that today, if you're using the word too busy, I'm hoping that at the end of this module, you'll have a different way of defining busy. And I would say the busiest example that you can think of is a grocery store. There are so many things from the moment that you walk into a grocery store, think of all the things that the grocery is trying to push you. Think of everything that you may see in the window. Think of everything that they will put between the time that you get to your bread, if you're looking for bread, the time that you will walked from the main door to the milk section. There are going to be so many items, so many distractions, so much noise. So you have 2 options. You ignore it, you move forward until you find where is the bread in this area for that store if you've never been to the store. But if you've been to the store, you will know exactly where to go. So you will ignore what is around you. It's the same thing online. So on the web, the consumer will come with a user goal. And that's why the exercise in the first assignment, in the exercises or the practice, wanted me really put you into the framework of doing a heuristic or doing a cart sorting and knowing what the users are and what their goal is and what are they trying to accomplish. Because yes, everything will look very busy, but really when it's well done and it's delivering on the user goal and what users are trying to do, it's a non-issue because they will find it. And then you'll learn about cart sorting, and we can use Post-it, and we can use the whiteboard, which we will use together as a team. We will do more of categorization and grouping and validating. So don't worry for now. Latch, you may have heard of Latch. And then Latch is a way that you can actually decide to organize and structure your content. So, and Latch stands for alpha location, A for alphabet, T for time, category, C for category, and H for hierarchy. So we are going to talk about hierarchy as well. So this these are the ways that you could actually structure your content if you want. There is not one way. There are multiple ways. And the chances are you will come to a business that already has picked or chosen a category or a way of grouping and categorizing or arranging or organizing their content. Sometimes they may even use more than one way of grouping and organizing content as well. It may even depend on the page. It may even depend on the landing pages. So, and if you think of it, when you go to the homepage, often you're going to see maybe promotions and maybe they're going to list them as location. Maybe they're going to put them as departure dates. Maybe they're going to group them by the ones that expire soon. So there's a notion of time. Last week, one of the students says, I have photos I want to arrange. I'm not sure how I'm going to arrange it. I just came back from a long trip. How do I do? Do I do destination? Do I do alphabets? Do I do timing? Do I do categories? Do I do themes? So the Latch is trying to do that. So the Latch is trying to remind you that there are many ways, but knowing about the users and knowing or giving them the flexibility to actually navigate how they want to navigate is also sometimes a good option to do. So Latch is there for you, and it's comparable for those of you that may have heard of the 5-hat rack. So there's a video that you can use on your own and go through. It's just another way to help you to structure your content and make decisions. But at the end of the day, it still goes down to a business goal, knowing a user and a user goal. So a user and a stage. And I shared with you the framework last week. And then that will help you on how you should arrange or should organize your content. And don't worry, we're going to talk more about categorization and how do we organize and how we arrange. But at the end of the day, it's really about knowing the business, knowing the user, knowing what's important, knowing what they've seen, knowing what's important to them, and then making those options discoverable and findable as well. So in the discussion board are things for you to think about on your own when it comes to IA that tries to summarize or you to think about if there was an assignment, if there was an exam to try to see, did you understand what we've discussed last week? These would be good questions for you to ask and try to see if you know the answers. I have a thread on the discussion board that you can use. You can feel free to share some of your insights. Perhaps I can post some of my insights in there too. But the goal is to help you to do a recap, to understand the topic of the previous week. But this is still, again, we're still in week 1. We're closing today. But I can provide some answers to discussion. But I was hoping that the teams in the class would go in and feel free to give some answers before I give too many insights and to make sure that you guys have a chance to go back and reflect and think. But I'll be happy to provide some answer. Again, you're not marked on this. You're not graded. This is for your own learning. And the more you participate, then the better you'll be as IAs. And I assume you made the choice to be here. So use that time and opportunities to reflect and think about these questions. So in summary and closing for last week, for week 1, in preparation for week 2, there's not one recipe. So we're going to need to pick a model. You're going to need to make decisions about a framework or IA, but you will at least have a framework and a set of questions that you will know that you should ask. Typically, you ask people will take care of creating information architectures. But you may come across something that someone else has done. Maybe it will be a matter of refining it, adjusting, and making better. But you would use back the framework again. They obviously have to be created from the consumer point of view, but at the same time, you need to think about the business. You need to think about, how do I help the business? How do I support the business? How do I make choices that will help making more sales, reducing costs if that is what we want? Maybe we want to promote a specific destination. Maybe we want to promote Cancun, and the rest is still available, but the main focus is about Cancun, or maybe it's about a specific promotion. But knowing about the customer stages and the step, and I would say you're always going to have people that will come to your brand that are non-customer that you want to target. You're always going to have people that are a customer. How do you serve them? How do you support them? Knowing what each one is trying to do will help you to make choices about your content and your structure. So again, the business pillar, the customer pillar are very, very important, and it will lead you to page layout and content. So once you know the user and the user goal and the business, and you map your choices to that, then the rest will be relatively easy in terms of layout, content, words, labels, and tone, and we will take through the module. So if there are any questions for anybody who's in the audience, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. If you do have questions as we go through the content of the material, I'm going to be available now because this is the end of this is the end of the little lecture for the hour 5 and 6. But I will try to have no lecture, but I will do similar to what I just did when I feel that there's a need. Otherwise, hour 5 and 6 I'm going to be here on the collaborate, and if there are any questions, anybody can come in, drop in and out. It's up to you to do what you want. Are there any questions from whoever who is in the session with me right now? I'll be happy to answer them, or you guys can stay and we can do that. I will I will share the slide that just speaks about today. So in case we have anybody who's coming in. So again, we are hour 5 and 6 now, from 2:25 to 4:10. It's almost already 3. When and how you like to spend this time is up to you. I will be recording, so I'm going to stop the recording at this point after I've gone through this slide. After, I will be here online to meet with you. If you have questions, I'll be on standby. If you wish to ask me a question, I'm here. This is a good time to do it. If you do have any other questions outside of this moment, then you can send me a course message. I'll be more than happy. And then for the lab items, when there are lab items that I expect you to submit something, even though it's not graded, I tell you where and how to do it. And typically, we're probably going to be on the discussion board, or I may ask you specifically or individually to send me what you have discovered through your lab at the end of the week, at the end of week 1, at the end of the lab. So the lab should be completed before the beginning of the following week. Now, I know that this class is a bit tricky because this is the lab session, but we could agree that the labs could be completed between now and Friday so that I have time before the following week to be able to give you feedback or insight. It's not graded, but the more you do, the more you participate. But there's always a chance that I may ask you specifically to share with me what you have come up with. So be prepared. And as I said, I will pick a few students randomly, and I'll have to ask you to send me something or show me what you've done on the discussion board. Or I will go on the discussion board and look for what you've provided. So I will be more clear and even more clear on where and when I do expect something to be submitted, and then I will. Eventually, you will hear from me, or I will ask for me to see some of your lab discovery through emails, if that's the best forum. But I will tell you where and where to post your discovery of your labs. Now, we are in teams. We're a big class, so most of the labs items, I would say, if not all the labs item, unless it's mentioned, are to be done in teams. But when I feel that I'd like to see something that per individual, then I will mention it too. But we are a big class, so it's important that you do as teams or discuss as teams, and then you share where I mention or where I want you to share. So I'm going to stop recording. I'm going to be here. I don't think I will keep video on, but I will have my audio. And anybody who has questions, please feel free, and you can drop it at any point as you want, as you wish. So you're probably thinking about